WWE 24, Becky Lynch, the man, is what we're talking about here today on WWE Network and Chill, where every single week I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. And this was a big one. WWE 24, Becky Lynch, the man, as I said. This aired after Money in the Bank on Sunday. Had the chance to watch it on Tuesday. Fucking loved it. The 24 specials are always really, really well done. I think the last one we got was the one on WrestleMania in New Orleans. And those are always good, but I really specifically enjoy these ones on like individual performers. Like the last real 24 that we got, let's be honest here, aside from the Mania New Orleans one, was the one of the Hardy Boys, the Woken special from last June. That was almost a year ago. That was hands down my favorite 24 I've ever seen. So this one was no different. This was equally excellent, chronicling the journey of Becky Lynch from where she started in wrestling up until the main event of WrestleMania 35. So we start off this special with Becky Lynch waking up the Sunday of WrestleMania, talking about how this is what she's been working toward her entire life. She calls it the biggest night of my life. So before that, she returns to her old stomping grounds in Ireland, talking about how growing up there was awesome and how she looked up to Mick Foley because he was like the ultimate underdog back in the late 90s. He proved without a shadow of a doubt that he was main event material through his work and his feuds with The Rock and winning the WWE title and stuff like that. So, in order to start wrestling, her brother, for her, talked to Finn Balor, at the time known as Prince Fergal Devitt, about training with Finn. So she was able to join the school. She was the first female to go to the school. And she had something about her that just stood out as special. She was awful. Her brother admitted that. She admitted that. But she loved it. And Finn even said that she stood out from everyone else there. Even Finn knew that she was going to make it one day off of her charisma alone. So, in 2005, Becky wanted to go to Canada to learn more. She ended up getting booked in Japan on various tours with Natalya. She went on the same tour of Europe with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens at one point. She ended up hurting her eye in a match in Germany a few years later. Her mom was extremely upset over the injury. She basically told Becky, in uncertain terms, in so many words, that she had to stop. So Becky retired, I believe in April of 2009. That's when her announcement in Shimmer aired, with her saying that maybe this wasn't exactly for her, and maybe she'll be back down the road, but she doesn't really know what she's going to do yet. So in that time, she became a personal trainer, a flight attendant. She went back to college. She studied acting, kind of broke down the business in various aspects and like went to different parts of the business when it came to like the physical side and the acting side and the intelligence side, stuff like that. But it just wore her down and it just wasn't for her. And she knew that she was having trouble finding herself. So she called up Robbie Brookside, who has been working for WWE for a while now, and she got a tryout through him. Showed up at the first day of the Performance Center. Now, I don't know if she meant like the first day that it opened back in 2013, but the timeline would check out because I think she was signed in late 2013, early 2014. So if that's what she was talking about, then that certainly makes sense. She debuted on NXT TV with a river dance gimmick. And as atrocious as it was, and I remember watching it at that time, it was in the summer of 2014 on NXT. I think her first match was against, of all people, Charlotte. I think it might have been Finn or someone else said that, yeah, it was a bad gimmick, but you could tell that she was having fun. And she only improved from there. She debuted on the main roster alongside Charlotte and Sasha Banks in July of 2015. But Rollins called her the odd one out. Yeah, Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky, their debut was heavily touted, but Becky was not really as focused on at the beginning as much as Charlotte and Sasha were, who went on to become champions, and not Sasha from the get-go, but Charlotte became champion within months. Banks was the face of Team Bad. She went for the championship early on in 2016, along with Becky, but it was very obvious that Becky was kind of an afterthought at that point in time, and the spotlight was on Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair. She wasn't being utilized properly, is what various people said in talking about this stage of Becky's career. Yeah, she was a part of the triple threat at WrestleMania 32, so she did have her fair share of highlights, but Becky was pissed that about a year later at Comic-Con, she was left out of a Mattel action figure line, kind of remembering that triple threat from WrestleMania. And Becky even says they, arguably stole the show that night, which I would attest to, because that match was fantastic. WrestleMania 32 sucked, but that three-way was great. So yeah, they came out this Mattel action figure line with just Charlotte and Sasha. And Becky was at that panel too, and she was not included with the rest of the action figures. So that made her feel like shit. She was pissed off at that. She also got called irrelevant by Paige at one point, and that was later on in 2015. But still, it didn't really feel great for Becky to be kind of left behind, and be overshadowed by the other four horsewomen, whether it be Bayley in NXT or Charlotte and Sasha on the main roster. Seth even talked about how Becky would come crying to Seth Rollins, literally come crying up to Seth about how she felt she was never going to get a shot. And that was well before they started dating. They're dating now, and that's kind of obvious based on how they, Seth talks about her in this documentary, and we see them together a little later on arriving at WrestleMania. But they didn't start dating until, I think, earlier this year. But anyway, even Becky asked Charlotte what she could be doing better, which broke Charlotte's heart. And Charlotte was like, she's the one I look up to, and she's the one that's asking me what she could be doing better, which kind of broke Charlotte's heart. It even broke her heart more when Becky got drafted to SmackDown as part of the WWE draft when the brands were split in the summer of 2016. They both cried because they were going to be separated. Charlotte and Becky were going to be separated. They're really, really good friends. But she went on to become the first woman drafted to SmackDown in that WWE draft. Only a few months later did she become the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion at Backlash that September. But even then, she felt like she was not reaching her full potential as champion. According to Natalya, Natalya was like, yeah, she was on TV every week. She was always doing something, but she felt like she wasn't the focal point of that division. So she lost the championship to Alexa Bliss in December at the TLC 2016 pay-per-view. And she had to get back up after that. There was a lot to, it was a long way back up to the top for Becky Lynch. She ended up in the Battle Royal at WrestleMania 34. She didn't really do anything of note in 2017. They kind of glossed over that because she didn't do anything that year. And she also kind of felt that she was, pushed aside when Charlotte came over to SmackDown in the Superstar Shakeup in 2017. So she did nothing of note for the next year. She wound up in the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania 34, got eliminated very quickly, as if no one even really noticed. She talked about, she was like, I felt no one even noticed I was thrown out of the match, and that's pretty bad. And soon after that, she cut a promo, I think on social media, about how she missed completely everything that happened in that post-WrestleMania SmackDown, where the Iconics debuted and attacked Charlotte, and then Carmella cashed in her Money in the Bank briefcase, won the SmackDown Women's Championship. Becky cut this promo on Twitter, which was fucking hilarious, about how she was eating quinoa or something like that. I don't know exactly how you pronounce it with her accent. I don't know what it is. It's like some sort of like dish or whatever. She was eating that, and she's like, man, damn, I missed all of it, blah, blah, blah. Like, the video's on YouTube. I'm sure you can find it. It was hilarious. And people kind of caught on after that. She started to catch fire again after that video. And, she kind of ran with it and used that as her gimmick for a few weeks. And people started to get behind her again. And she started building momentum. That summer, she beat Mandy Rose. She beat Sonya Deville. She beat this person. She beat that person. She had momentum on her side, and her reactions were getting better and better by the week. She ended up earning herself an opportunity at the SmackDown Women's Championship at SummerSlam. But then right before the pay-per-view, Charlotte got added to make it a triple threat. Charlotte had been gone from TV since, I think, Money in the Bank. She had been gone for a while. So she got her moment taken from her as a result of Charlotte being added. And because I think it was Charlotte who pinned Becky to win the championship. And then Becky turned heel right afterwards. She spoke the truth. She called her promos cathartic. I was at the first SmackDown after SummerSlam where she cut her first promo as a heel. It was fucking fantastic. People were behind Becky even at that point. Despite the heel turn, people were still very much behind Becky. And she was using those promos as a way to kind of relieve frustration and get things off of her chest and make kind of feel like she was, doing something right. Because after all this time of being looked over, she can finally air her grievances out on WWE TV. So we hear Last Man Standing by the Graffiti Ghosts playing for the following video package, which includes her winning the championship at Hell in a Cell from Charlotte. We see highlights from Evolution. We see highlights from Super Showdown, where she beat Charlotte both times. At Super Showdown, Charlotte won by DQ, but that hardly counts. And it was around that time she started calling herself the Man. Seth Rollins actually called her the first alpha female in WWE history, which I'm not exactly sure is true, because we had Chyna, and then Ronda Rousey, and a few other women, but whatever. And she says that the man gimmick was what really kept fans behind her. Then we see a clip of Becky arriving at WrestleMania. I mean, again, this is kind of fast forwarding a bit here, but we'll go back to the her rise to superstardom in a moment. We see her arriving at WrestleMania 35 with Seth Rollins. She talks about how she loves her gear for that night that was made for her, and she wants to keep it simple. She doesn't want to overcomplicate things with her gear. She wants to keep it simple, and says that it has a Kill Bill feel, and that she feels like the main protagonist from that movie, which I have actually not seen. Maybe bits and pieces of it, but not the entire thing from start to finish. Anyway, we go back to November of 2018, where the women of SmackDown invaded Raw. And she says that I get a punch in the face from Nia Jax that changed my career forever. And we hear quotes and interviews from various superstars, including Bayley, who says that it reminded her of the Stone Cold visual. The visual of Stone Cold Steve Austin in the sharpshooter at WrestleMania 13 when he faced Bret Hart and had blood gushing down his face. It was kind of the same thing, and she looked like an absolute badass. And I think it was Becky said, or someone else said, it was one of those things that you just can't write. It was such a magical moment, and Becky was already popular, but that really put her on another level of superstardom when that moment happened, which was a complete accident, obviously, and knocked her out of the Survivor Series main event. But it was an amazing moment and one of the better Raw endings I've seen in quite a long time, to be honest with you. She actually, after she went through the curtain, after they invaded Raw and she went through the curtain up top after going through the audience, she didn't even know where she was because she was concussed. She broke her nose and got concussed through the punch. She got a CAT scan, found out that her nose was broken and that she had a concussion. And it took a toll on her mentally to find out that she was not going to be medically cleared in time for Survivor Series that Sunday. So obviously she was upset that the match with Ronda Rousey that had been hyped up for a while and people were really excited for was called off. But now she looks forward to main eventing WrestleMania. So all things happen for a reason. And I think in retrospect, had that match actually main evented Survivor Series, I do absolutely think we would have gotten Ronda and Charlotte straight up at WrestleMania. No doubt about it. That match would have happened without Becky involved. They would have, cut Becky down a few notches with the loss to Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series, and that would have been it. They would have just moved on with Becky in another part of the division. That's my personal opinion. That's what I think would have happened. I don't know. We still would have gotten that triple threat had we gotten Becky and Ronda early at Survivor Series last November. Anyway, so she's also mad going into the SmackDown before Survivor Series or that night or whatever it was. She was pissed that she was left off the posters for the show. She was told that she just needed the rest. So she took some time off after that. She was back in action in time for TLC, but she went back home for the holidays, invited all of her friends to dinner that she had met from various points in her life, from flight attending to wrestling to this and that, and it was really cool for her to be around all of her friends and family at this point. She found out the night after TLC that her dad had been diagnosed with lung cancer, which is fucking terrible. So she really valued spending that time with her dad and called it special. She was feeling pressure the night of the Royal Rumble, where she wasn't in the match, but she ended up getting added after Lana was hurt, blah, blah, blah. You know the whole story. And Bayley said that she had never heard a crowd that loud before until Becky Lynch won that Women's Royal Rumble match. Natalya said if it was anyone else, they would have booed them out of the building, which she is absolutely right about. And Becky knew she wanted to main event WrestleMania. She knew right then and there, and even well before that, she wanted to main event WrestleMania. And yeah, the match got changed a few times, and the TV stuff they did was kind of wonky, and they added in Charlotte for no real reason, but they kept people engaged with what they did online. Becky with her tweets, Ronda Rousey with her videos, Charlotte doing various things on like Instagram and shit like that. She wanted to not only be the main event, she wanted people to see that match as the main event of WrestleMania 34. And then, ultimately, she was told by Vince 2 weeks before Mania that they would be the main event. And she cried tears of joy and relief in that moment. And she said, I dreamed about main eventing WrestleMania since I started wrestling, and I got what I wanted. The day of the show, Triple H congratulated her beforehand. People were so excited for all of her colleagues. She had respect from her peers. It was really cool to see her interacting with all these different people, including Natalya being one of them. I know she talked to before the show. She was talking to, there was just a lot of notable names here that aren't really coming to mind. Maybe Big Show, I want to say. There were a couple different people. But it was just really cool to see. Paul Heyman being one of them, which was awesome. Yeah, she had a lot of people come up to her and congratulate her on winning, or not even winning at that point, but main eventing WrestleMania and for everything that she had accomplished up to that point. And she was the good kind of nervous. She was the good kind of nervous going into that match. and she could hear the crowd chanting the entire time. And I was there. I can attest to that. It was a great match, great atmosphere for that main event. Natalya said that it showcased amazing storytelling, and Becky called the win over Ronda Rousey and becoming a winner-take-all and becoming the new Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion. She called it overwhelming. She said, or rather Rollins said that even in that moment, Becky was ready to take it to the next level. And her dad, who was there in the front row, which was awesome, said that Becky has passion in spades. And Becky was even congratulated by Vince McMahon afterwards backstage, which was a great visual. And Vince, if you haven't seen him lately, which I'm sure you have because he's been on WWE TV in recent weeks, he looks every bit of 74, 75 years old. The guy just looks so fucking old. He looks like he could croak any second, and I hate to say that, but he's not looking great these days. But yeah, Vince congratulated her, and she was like, "Oh, thank you so much, blah blah blah." He walks off, and then she says, "I love you, Vince," and then you faintly hear Vince say, "I love you back," or whatever, which was funny. Anyway, and then we close off the special with Becky saying, "What do you do when all your dreams come true? You make up some new ones. Thankfully, I have a large imagination," which was a great line to end with. I thought this was a tremendous 24 documentary. It clocks in at about 58 minutes, I believe, so it's just about an hour, as all the other 24s usually are. This is awesome. This is really good. This reminded me of the Seth Rollins one that they put out a few years ago, which I also reviewed here on Network and Chill a few years back. Cheap plug. That one was great. This reminded me of the Finn Balor one, which was also awesome from 2017. The Hardy Boys one, which was also great. Still my favorite. This is it's got to be up there too. These 24s never cease to deliver. But absolutely check this out if you haven't already on the WWE Network under the Originals category. WWE 24, Becky Lynch, the man. With all that being said, guys, thank you guys for checking out my video, my review, etc., etc. Very much appreciated. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. I will be back this weekend with hopefully not two different videos, but Saturday. I think this is going up Friday, so Saturday. And by the way, as this goes up, I will be in Las Vegas for Double or Nothing weekend, which is awesome. So more on that. On Saturday, our preview of Double or Nothing goes up, I believe here on the channel, if not later tonight, Friday night. Our preview of Double or Nothing, the first ever event under the AEW banner, me and Mr. Marceau. So be on the lookout for that. Our preview picks and predictions for the pay-per-view. And then hopefully on Sunday, if my latest Miz and Mrs. review doesn't go up, that'll likely be up Monday. So I'm going to be uploading videos from Double or Nothing. So stay tuned for that this weekend on the channel. All the live reactions will be up, hopefully in the not-so-distant future. And by that, I mean, like, in the next couple days. If you're not already subscribed, if you're not already getting notifications with each new video that goes up, what the fuck are you waiting for? Hit that little bell button so you get all the notifications as soon as they go up. If you want all the instant reactions of me marking out at the stuff that I saw in person at AEW Double or Nothing, subscribe and turn those notifications on. So with all that being said, guys, have an awesome rest of your weekend. I'm Graham Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.